Welcome everyone, join us today as we honor the life and legacy of Tony Lewis, the iconic voice behind the Outfield. From global success in the 80s with unforgettable hits, to his later years as a solo artist, Tony's journey left a lasting mark on pop rock music. So let's dive in. Tony G. Lewis, born the 21st of December 1957, in London, England. Growing up in a working-class family in London's East End, Tony was surrounded by the sounds of the British pop explosion of the 1960s. As a boy, he was captivated by music, first by bands like the Beatles and later by T-Rex, David Bowie, and glam rock. By his teens, he had picked up a guitar and developed a knack for bass, inspired by the melodic yet driving playing of Paul McCartney. School wasn't where Tony truly shone, it was music. He would spend hours in his bedroom practicing, dreaming of one day stepping onto the stage. By the 1970s, he was performing in local groups and making a name for himself as a reliable bassist with a smooth, clear singing voice that stood out in London's pub and club circuit. It was around this time he crossed paths with guitarist and songwriter John Spinks, a meeting that would eventually change his life. The two remained loosely connected as the years rolled on, but it wasn't until the early 1980s that their paths locked firmly into place. The turning point came at Scarf Studios in East London, a makeshift rehearsal and recording hub that drew in countless musicians of the era. In 1980, Tony joined John Spinks and drummer Alan Jackman in a short-lived band called SyriusB. Tony stuck mainly to bass while another singer fronted the progressive rock group, but after just 2 gigs the project collapsed with the popularity of punk rock in demand. Still, Scarf Studios became a second home for all 3 musicians, a place where ideas could spark at any hour. Tony dabbled in a band called Precious Pups, where he tried his hand at vocals, though he was still seen primarily as a bassist. John kept writing and experimenting, and Alan worked wherever he could. Slowly, out of the ashes of these side projects, something more enduring began to form. With encouragement from studio owner Alan Alderson, John and engineer Mark Lewis refined their songwriting and demos, which gradually drew attention. One night, John caught Tony singing in his deeper register with Precious Pups. It jogged his memory of the time he'd once heard Tony powerfully tackle The Police's Message in a Bottle with a soaring range. Recognizing Tony's untapped potential, John asked him to sing on some new demos. It was a revelation. When Tony pushed into his higher register, everything clicked. The songs came alive in a way no one expected. From that point, he became the true voice of the group. Under the name the Baseball Boys, they started playing pubs and clubs across London, eventually recording their first single Never Told Lies. Through 1983 and 1984, Tony, John, and Alan worked tirelessly at Scarf, building momentum through word of mouth and their demo tapes. Tony's vocals stood out, emotional, powerful, and instantly recognizable, becoming the band's signature. By the summer of 1984, songs like Your Love, Every Time You Cry, and All the Love had been written, all shaped with Tony's voice in mind. That momentum finally paid off when Colombia Records took interest, flying the band to New York in late 1984. They began pre-production with producer Bill Whitman, before returning to London to record what would become their debut album, Play Deep, at Air Studios in February 1985. Just one day into recording, tragedy struck when John Spinks' mother passed away, a bittersweet reminder of the struggles the band had faced on the road to success. Play Deep became an international success, and with their reputation for playing American-sounding music, the LP went triple platinum in the US, powered by the hit single, Your Love, which climbed to number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. Other singles, including All the Love in the World, and Every Time You Cry, also performed strongly, and established the band as a fixture of mid-1980s pop rock. The follow-up album, Bangan, in 1987, featured the singles Since You've Been Gone and No Surrender, and achieved gold certification. In 1989, they released Voices of Babylon, a slightly more mature effort with heavier use of keyboards and production flourishes. Its title track gave them another top 40 hit and was one of their final recordings with drummer Alan Jackman before his departure. Through the 1990s, Tony and John Spinks continued the Outfield as a duo, recording albums such as Diamond Days, in 1990, Rock Eye, in 1992, and Anytime Now, recorded in the late 1990s but released in 2006. Though these later works didn't match the explosive chart success of Play Deep, the band maintained a devoted following, especially in the US, where their sound remained a staple of classic rock radio. In 2011, the group reunited in full for Replay, their final studio album. Recorded partly at Abbey Road Studios, it featured Alan Jackman's return and was well received by longtime fans, marking a high note for the band's later years. In 2014, tragedy struck when John Spinks died from liver cancer at the age of 60. Tony was devastated by the loss of his lifelong friend and collaborator, whom he spoke to daily, and was extremely close to. With the Outfield effectively ending, he withdrew from music for a couple years, struggling to regain his creative drive. During this difficult period, Tony leaned heavily on the support of his wife Carol. Encouraging him not to give up, she became his creative partner, writing lyrics and urging him back into the studio, and back to what he loved. This marked the beginning of a new phase in his career. Tony officially returned in June 2018 with his debut solo album, Out of the Darkness. Released through Madison Records, it was a deeply personal project. He played all the instruments, produced the album himself, and co-wrote the songs with Carol. The title reflected both his emotional journey after John's passing, and his re-emergence as a solo artist. Later that summer, he joined the Retro Futura tour across the US, performing alongside other 80s stars such as Belinda Carlisle, ABC, Modern English, and Lamal of Kajagoogoo. These shows marked his first return to American stages in years and were warmly received by longtime fans. In December 2018, Tony followed up with Unplugged, the Acoustic Sessions, a stripped-back album featuring re-recordings of both Outfield hits and tracks from Out of the Darkness. This release showcased his voice in a more intimate setting and reaffirmed his desire to continue creating music even outside the stadium rock sound of his band days. Away from music, Tony lived a quieter life near London with Carol, his wife of 35 years. Together they raised 2 daughters, Gemma and Rosie, and later welcomed 3 grandchildren. Family always remained central to him, and Carol's role in encouraging his solo career was one of the most important personal influences in his later years and life. Sadly, on the 19th of October 2020, Tony Lewis died suddenly and unexpectedly, at the age of 62. No cause of death was made public. His passing was mourned by fans worldwide, and tributes highlighted the enduring place Tony and the Outfield's music held in 80s pop rock history and beyond. At the time of his death in 2020, Tony had also been working on new material. Some of these recordings were completed with Carol's involvement, and later released posthumously as the 6-song EP More Than I Dared. Proceeds from the EP went to Music Cares, a cause Tony strongly supported. And there you have it. Though Tony Lewis is no longer with us, his voice and songs remain timeless. His music continues to bring joy to those who loved him, ensuring that Tony will always be remembered, and never be forgotten. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos, just like this. Take care and bye for now.